Welcome to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the More You Knows podcasting network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Rod, and Chris. And Chris, it's been a minute. Give me an old man take.
I don't care how many times they try to put it on the screen, shove it in my face, put it in the middle of the ring during SmackDown. I ain't drinking no Prime.
Wow. Old man prime take. And of course, Chris is referring to, Rod, the huge sponsorship deal Logan Paul's Prime has made with the WWE for all premium live events to have a big Prime decal, sticker, ring, whatever you want to call it, in the middle of the ring, starting with WrestleMania. Rod, your thoughts?
I'm fine with it, right? I'm fine with it. We all thought that we were going to lose our minds when they turned Wrigley Field over to advertisements, and clearly Cub fans have not cared anything about that. We heard people going on and on about, oh my God, the NBA couldn't possibly put advertisements on their jerseys the way they do in soccer. That's terrible. We're just a hop, skip, and a jump away from the teams just only having the sponsor on their jersey, and we're getting closer and closer to that all the time with this. So no, I don't care at all. I really don't care at all. And Prime's really not that bad. All right. As far as energy drinks go, they're all about the same. So why not Prime?
Yeah, I'm more of a Celsius guy than Prime. We will take sponsorships definitely from either, honestly, at this point. I will put right there, that wall right there, big Prime sticker on there. It goes against everything that has always been in WWE. That's Vince McMahon. Of all the bad things that he's and takes his head, one of the things he did always say was, we're never going to put anything on the ring. And I'm kind of with Rod on this one. I think that it's just about time that they do it. They got a decent amount of money for it. Probably they got Logan Paul for it essentially this year. But moving forward, if you think about it, that's prime real estate for 8 hours on a Sunday that every single person that likes wrestling is going to be watching your product. It's a good idea. The one thing I will caution, though, WCW ran into this a little bit when they did some of that. If that adhesive or decal isn't done correctly, it could be slippery. It could peel up a little bit. So I'm pretty sure WWE will take care of that, but something to watch out for, Chris.
Listen, I remember back in my day watching boxing, you saw Budweiser, king of the beers, in the middle of all those boxing rings, all right?
Sure.
Didn't want to drink Budweiser, still don't. Not going to drink Prime.
Okay. Rod?
If I'm a Netflix or upcoming the USA Network, I maybe think to myself, hey, wait a minute here, guys, but not for nothing. If you're gonna sell out the ring space and make the money when you have your PLEs, we'd like to get our beaks wet a little bit when we air your product live. So that's the one Pandora's box kind of thing that, to me, to be the downer here, Jim, that I would worry about a little bit, right? Once the networks get involved, we're going to see maxi pads and, gold bonds and, turn your 401k into gold and all that kind of weird stuff. A hop, skip, and a jump away, right?
Erectile dysfunction medicine. Let's go. I mean, we've got to do it, right? Yeah. Eventually, you are going to see around the edge of the ring. I'm assuming you're going to see a lot of that kind of thing. Chris, I'm proud of you. That wasn't a horrendous old man take. It's kind of a middle take there, and it was on my list to talk about. So that's good. Something else, Rod, what are you hot about today?
I'll tell you actually what I'm hot about. This is going to come out of left field for you, but here's what I'm hot about. And this might not be on your rundown. Maybe it is, but Candice LeRae, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay. You are a wrestler for a reason. Okay. You maybe were a failed actress one way or another along the way. And no, you are not the right person to try to carry this storyline. I'm not entirely sure that we should broach this storyline. It seems awfully difficult to me to be able to land the right way. And it's absolutely terrible for the paying customers that are there in attendance live. They have absolutely zero idea what happened during that match where Candice LeRae and Maxine were just yelling at one another, it seemed to them, and the camera was all in close on them. The fans there had absolutely zero idea about what was going on there. Indy Hartwell seemed to have zero idea about what was going on. The whole thing was just confusing, and Candice LeRae, you're not good enough to pull it off. So I was hot about that segment, Jimmy, because we talked about it, and I thought they had opportunity there, and it was botched.
Yes, I agree with you completely. no one knew what was going on. Now, obviously, I think the end result is they want to get Maxine over as a babyface. You know what you could do with that? Have her be a manager, and she could just be as over as she possibly could be. Who's one of the most over females that we've had over the past 15 years? Lana. What did she do? She was with Rusev. And what happened when she started wrestling? Her popularity went down. It's as simple as that. So, by the way, shout out RIP to their marriage, just for the record. But
what about Miss Elizabeth, Jimmy? You want to talk about somebody who was over like Rover and never even began to wrestle?
No question. One of the best ever there, for sure, as a valet goes. So we have this storyline with Maxine, who can't do moves, but she's getting better, whatever. I really don't care. It's fine. You know, there's a lot of women on the roster that can continue to improve. But the way they did this, where no one knew why Candice LeRae was yelling at her, and then to bring her dead brother into it, which, if you read a little bit into that, it's a horrendous story. Horrible story. Her brother had disabilities and was hit in head-on collision and passed away. I'm not giving that justice. There's a lot more to that story that goes into that. But why bring that in, Chris? And I have a feeling Chris is definitely going to be against the storyline.
Yeah, so for one, I didn't know what the backstory was. I don't know who Maxine's brother is, but the
Tragic story.
whole tone of that interaction just. So I watched this on tape delay. I saw what was happening. I was like, wait, what? And so I rewound it thinking maybe I missed something. It was just so out of place. And I didn't even think until you guys just mentioned it, how it would look for the people at the show, which would be even more confusing because you don't know what's going on or what's being said or what would make her react that way. Because I didn't at first until I watched it again. I was like, so there's definitely something there, but I didn't know what it was. It was just really weird and out of left field for someone like me.
Jimmy, you're the wise man here. How in the world are we going to pull off in kayfabe essentially a gimmick that's about breaking kayfabe? How in the world are we going to land this plane? That's what I mean. It just seems a dangerous thing to unlock.
When LeRae said she's not taking that move, it's like, wait, what? That's not what you're supposed to do. I don't know. I think they're just trying something. And here, okay, ready? Here's the spin. They are trying something unique. It is unique. We haven't really seen this before, but they're doing it with such a low level storyline that people aren't going to freak out or not remember as much as they would if it was on a higher level storyline. So they can try it out here and then do some fixes for a bigger storyline coming down the road. Maybe that's what they're trying.
Ooh, okay. What if the bloodline somehow continues to be in power and we're just trying to warm up a story, Jimmy, where guys are like, nope, we're not taking that move. We're not taking that move. We're not doing this anymore. Nobody's laying down for you anymore. We've had it. All the guys in the back, we've had it. You might be onto something there, Jim. Chris, I saw you perking up. You're always down for the death of the bloodline. Chris,
The Rock says, I'm your boss. The Rock says, I'm your boss. Lay down or you're fired. Ooh. I don't know. Yeah. He's mentioned that 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, he's mentioned he's the boss a lot.
He has mentioned he's the boss a lot. I can't believe this is the third thing I'm talking about. Dom got married this past weekend. Not sure if you saw that. Very beautiful ceremony. Best part about the ceremony, Dom gets on the mic to thank everybody. And what do? They boo him. That is gold, gentlemen. That is gold.
Did he also thank Mommy for allowing him to be at the ceremony to be wed to someone else other than her?
Mommy was there.
He did, but no one could hear because they were all booing him.
They were all booing him at his own wedding. Listen, when you have fun like that, that's great. Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley had a lot of good pictures. They went there, went together with that, and obviously Rhea Ripley was at a UFC event, I believe, with Buddy Matthews. I don't know if they're married yet. It might be just fiance. But
what's up with Finn Balor? He's too good.
Who's
Finn
that?
Balor and JD McDonough, they're too good to go to the wedding.
They might. I don't know. I don't know if they took.
What's R-Truth there? That's really what the people want to know. Was R-Truth there?
R-Truth was not at the wedding, as far as I know. You never really know on that.
He thought it was next weekend, Rod.
Oh, hey-o.
Listen, Chris. You don't often do it, but when you do, you're fantastic. That's gold. That's gold. If you are watching us on YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, and you have any comments, throw them in the chat. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. We are not proud. We love to interact with our fans. We do appreciate you downloading. Make sure you download every podcast at Yeah We Know Pod on Twitter, at Yeah We Know at gmail.com. We have the Morgan You Know on Facebook and the Morgan You Know on YouTube as well. We have a lot of things that we have to go over here. Let's get into some wrestling, shall we, gentlemen? Let's talk about, you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about Intercontinental Championship. Let's talk about this this gauntlet match that we had on Raw.
AKA the death of Ricochet, AKA the death of Ricochet.
Ricochet had a very good opening match and then died. I think Ricochet is going to get repackaged somehow. They might even send him back down to NXT for a while to try to get in that championship match. It's weird. Ricochet is one of the best overall performers they have. He really is. And I think Triple H likes him. Vince McMahon never saw him because he's too short. Kevin Dunn may not think he's pretty enough. By the way, let's talk about that. When I read that comment from Freddie Prinze, I don't know if you've read it or not, but Freddie Prinze came on and he would give 6 months of storylines to Kevin Dunn, and Kevin Dunn would say, "Oh, she's not pretty enough to be a champion." Like, how close-minded and just, I mean, who knows? He could have been bad storylines too, but still, it's like,
but
everyone
Jimmy,
has different. Yeah.
As we've said in the past, though, as wrong as that was, we cannot be surprised that that was what was happening, considering
Not
we
at
were
all.
having, mud wrestling matches and bra and panty matches, and we were having bikini contests, and I mean, of course, like they were under the spell at that time of we are putting on a television product, and the only thing people want to see on television is attractive people. We are now living in a world where folks want to see wrestling on TV, and they continue to be served up talking segments as we round towards WrestleMania.
It's
We're not talking. We're doing Intercontinental Championship first.
They don't want people to get hurt, but yeah, Becky Lynch almost died on a power bomb, but that's okay. We'll talk about that later. We had Sami Zayn beating Chad Gable, your boy Rod, Chad Gable, for the right to face Gunther at WrestleMania. I go back and forth on this. Personally, I think star power wise, it's the right move. I don't know if it right now, though, Sami Zayn winning the belt is going to be as big as it would have been 3, 4, 5 months ago, though, Rod.
You know what, Jim? I've evolved as a person. I've started
since
to think
last week
differently about wrestling. Listen, I like to think I'm constantly evolving, right? I like to think that before I stagnate and get too old, I got to make like some fast, superior changes like every day, right? Before I get as old as the old man up here in the right corner as we look on our boxes here on the internet. But when I get that old, I'm not going to be able to change anymore. So now I have to rapidly evolve. And I tell myself it's good. And you want to know why it's good? Because I'm not sure what Chad Gable is if he's not the Chad Gable that was fired up and given that promo and having everybody in that building being 100% behind him because they want the guy to get his shot. And so you can dial that up anytime you want it, right? You can dial that up anytime you want it for a SmackDown, a Raw, a PLE, a tag team that gets together, right? Look, Gable can give somebody some rub. He's just an energy machine when you want him to be, and then he'll get in the ring and be better than probably anybody that like is over with the crowd.
Chris, I don't know. Do you agree with that, Chris?
I don't disagree with it. I'm with Rod.
So
The people like to get behind Chad Gable. They do. He's the underdog. And just about every situation that he finds himself in, he's the underdog, and we all love to root for the underdog. But I got a question, Jimmy.
Yeah.
When is SummerSlam?
It's in August.
What month? It's in August. Okay.
Yep.
That is when I see Gunther losing this belt. Not now, not here. It'll be August. He will have done 2 full years. That'll be a big enough pay-per-view for him to lose the belt, and it'll give them more time after this WrestleMania match, whatever you want to call it, the gauntlet that they did, which I think is a little bit ridiculous with the wrestlers they picked. But anyways, I think you'll see Gunther get past here and then get a real storyline with somebody else, maybe a Randy Orton or a Damian Priest or something like that. And maybe that's leads into SummerSlam, and that's when we'll see the belt go.
See, I'm glad they gave the Intercontinental Championship gauntlet match the main event spot. I'm glad they gave it a long time. I thought that opening match was very good. I thought everyone served their purpose in that match, Rod. I know you don't like it, Chris, because they lost in the past. I get that. I understand that.
No, I'd say you're absolutely right. Right. We got to see a little bit of like, we're reminded that JD McDonough is on the roster for a reason, right? We got to see one of those matches where, he could actually wrestle a little bit, right? You said it yourself. Ricochet's exciting in the ring every time. It's just, it doesn't happen. It's not a thing. Nobody cares. Bronson Reed got to maybe be a little bit more heelish, which might give him a little bit more relevancy, I suppose, so he makes sense there, but I'm worried about Sami Zayn as well. I don't know that he's going to beat Gunther at WrestleMania. I'm beginning to side with Chris on this. I thought for sure we were going to move Gunther off of the IC belt and try to get him somewhere else, but I don't know what you really gain from Sami Zayn where he's at right now, winning that belt at WrestleMania. So Chris might be onto something here.
I agree. I think that Sammy has had an interesting year for sure. He was in the main event of night 1 of WrestleMania last year as the tag team match, which brings me to, for the second consecutive year, we are going to have the main event at WrestleMania be a tag team match. It is official. Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes versus the Bloodline. Yes, Roman Reigns and The Rock. I almost messed that up, but that's okay. And Cody Rhodes got his slap back on The Rock at the very end of the show. You knew that was coming. The Rock is continuously being all heel all the time. Chris, I'm looking for you at this. There's been a lot of talking, as Rod said, a lot of talking. Are you okay with it in this feud?
I am a little bit more than I probably would normally be. And the only reason is because I get to see The Rock. All right. And for someone like me who hasn't watched wrestling for a long period of time, didn't really get to see The Rock at his peak, really at his peak. But I still have that nostalgia. So that's what I like. And I know I can't expect Rock to be out there taking bumps every Friday night. All right. So
No.
I get to see The Rock. If that's a slap back and forth every once in a while, then so be it. I don't know if I still need the additional exclusives in the ring that Rod pointed out in our.
That was awesome though. That was a good interview.
But
that was a good interview by Cody.
Yeah, okay, but when is Cody not good? All right, that's why he is a great wrestler. All right, he is good on the mic. But I don't think we need it. Give me some more wrestling. We got enough people on the roster to have some matches. All right, let's have some matches. Not
instead of a 45-minute interview, maybe cut it to 30. All right, Rod. What are your thoughts on the slap heard around the world?
Well, I mean, we all knew the slap was coming, right? The only question was, how are we going to get there? The only question was, how is The Rock going to be even more heelish after calling everybody in Utah a crackhead or a meth head? And he went there by literally calling someone a mistake on live national television.
By the way, The Rock has children that are exactly that far apart as well. Just now, I think it's 2 different wives, but still,
of course,
kind of funny and kind of interesting there.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, right? Only The Rock is going to be able to get away with something like that, right? Only The Rock's going to be able to get away with something like that. And I also think that if we're not going to cut these guys' segments down, we can't have them ending, because I think they were probably supposed to get a little bit more information out there and they had to just wrap it up really quickly there at the end. So, because as you said, Jimmy, The Rock's just going to go. So we have to put him at a segment where we can then cut something else so we can at least get everything out if The Rock's just going to continue to bloviate. Which I'm fine with. I'm not over it yet, but I'm not really sure how he can get more heelish than he has the past 2 Fridays.
Oh, he'll continue to go there. And one thing that you did notice, they did cut that off really quick. And there's some things on X that you can see, some wide fan cams that everyone's saying, wrap it up. We got to go. But you have to put The Rock and Cody in the main event spot, as they learned from the week before when they were in the first segment. They lost a ton of viewers. This way, they're just ramping up. So that's how you have to do it, Chris. It's TV 101. A television is like radio, but with pictures that move.
Thank you. I was confused.
We're going to have Balls and Brew here coming up in a little bit, but our 6-pack is a 6-pack challenge with the Judgment Day facing 6 teams who they showed, but then they showed more, and then now it's a tournament kind of thing to get into the 6-pack challenge. Chris and Rod, you are going to witness carnage at WrestleMania this year. 6 teams, ladders, tables, chairs, belts above the ring. This is going to be amazing.
How in the world did you miss the obvious ladders, tables, chairs? Oh my joke right there, Jimmy. Come on. I mean, us podcasters, we're supposed to just shoot the fish in a barrel.
I did the 6-pack thing. I thought that was good enough.
That's true. Now listen, I like this because we did sort of wonder how there were so many people that were being left off of the WrestleMania card. So I like that we are going to have, there's going to be 10 other dudes who basically are going to be able to sneak into WrestleMania that we were unaware of. Now, one of the 10 is going to be Awesome Truth. So I'm a little bit worried about, are they really going to come on top? But then I thought to myself, what are some of R-Truth's best comedy bits that exist on YouTube for you right now? A ladder is involved in quite a few of them. So, Chris, I want to go to you. You're our resident podcast R-Truth expert. All right. We have given you the R-Truth corner. The Sacramento Kings are your thing on the fast break, and R-Truth and Drew McIntyre, who I'm sure we'll get to here yet. They're your things here on the wrestling show.
Right on. I will gladly take that role. Because R-Truth is gold. I don't care. It's the best thing that I am watching in wrestling right now. Every time he comes on, it's great. Don't care how much or how tired people may think this is. I love every bit of it. And if I will root for Awesome Truth to win the belts come WrestleMania, I think that would be fabulous. I would love every minute of it.
Even though you have openly trashed The Miz numerous times on this podcast, but now look who's coming home to my guy, the former Real World himself.
If you can go back and listen, I started to give Miz a lot more props towards the end of last year, beginning of this year. I've seen more of him in the ring doing better stuff, and I like him teaming up with Truth. I like the name Awesome Truth as a tag team. Give them the belts. Now, I do have a question about this crazy type of match. There's going to be essentially 4 belts up there, right? Is there a possibility we get 2 different teams pulling down 2 different belts?
Ooh, that is a good thought.
I'm not going to acknowledge that. I didn't think of that. It's interesting. I think it could happen. If they want to split them, yes, it should happen. They kind of do have enough tag teams right now to split them. It's kind of or this is a really good time to introduce new belts.
There you go.
Go back to the old school black, the actual ones that should
those
be
are the
there.
only belts that are up top.
Those
there.
are the only belts that are around, just like the old Intercontinental Championship belt as well from the 80s that Cody.
I think they're already prepping us for that, because if you look at Damian and Finn, sometimes you can't even tell what number of belts they have. They got some sitting off to the side. Somebody's holding other belts. Like, they're really making the belt number confusing. It's like they're playing some sort of bait and switch. And Jimmy, we're here on R-Truth, so we got to give you some props here. You have floated a theory that Damian Priest will lose his Money in the Bank cash in because of R-Truth. And I think possibly we're getting closer to that with that match that came out of nowhere on Raw Monday.
I think that's going to happen. And I like that a lot. I really do. If Damian Priest is going to lose, that's the way to do it, is just have R-Truth. Even, I was hoping R-Truth would try to help him. But if you think about it, R-Truth playing the dumb person, and then at the very end saying, no, I was ahead of you all along. I'm smart. You're not. This is why I was doing it. I want you to lose. I think that would be fantastic. And what better way to do it than at WrestleMania? I think that's where you can go. I think that Awesome Truth could win. I think you're going to see DIY in there. I think you're going to see my boys in there, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate in there as well.
The big strong boy getting a WrestleMania spot?
Well, who's going to make the best match?
Well, come on, the New Day's in there. Let's not.
The New Day's going to be in there. I think that's what 4 or 5 of the teams right there, right?
Yep.
So I mean, is it Indu Shear's not going to be in there?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not going to be those dudes. And it could easily be your Ludwig and your Giovanni. They could easily still be there.
They should be. They've earned it. Oh, you kidding me? They've 100% earned it. Good call on that.
Yeah, those dudes could be there. We
And
could
then maybe
see
the
we
Creed.
could see what's his name? Takashi Tanawa
Akira
Kasawa? What's his name?
Tozawa. It's close. It's fine.
We want
With
the
Otis.
smoke. All right, guys.
Oh,
We want
you?
the smoke.
Do you?
I do.
Okay.
Listen, I'm a Montez Ford fan. All right.
Sure.
He does some phenomenal things in the ring. I have
You trying
seen
to stake
him.
out another corner here? Are you trying to stake out Montez Ford corner now?
Remember the elimination chamber from the year before? We saw Montez Ford
Yeah.
in that match. That was a phenomenal performance he put on, and I've been a
Apparently
fan
not
of him
according to
ever.
Triple H.
Well, that's what I'm confused about. Like, why aren't we seeing those guys in the ring more? I thought they put on great matches. They're a tag team that's been around for a while that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
But they're not the New Day. So
It's only so much. Well, in previous iterations, yes, Rod, for sure. But I just think that they're right now. Hey, they have to feud with Karrion Kross and company. They're busy. That feud's never gonna end.
those dudes
Okay?
could be in there. You could put those dudes in there. Those dudes rip, man. I mean, those
Yeah.
dudes rip. Like when those guys decide to stop running around with that loser carrying cross, because that's where Jimmy, I gotta go there. I mean, I just gotta go there. I want it for him so bad, but it just
I do.
It's never gonna happen. It's just never gonna happen. The guy's a loser.
Speaking of losers, no.
There we go.
There we go.
Drew McIntyre. Oh no, I'm sorry.
You know, it's weird. The McIntyre Rollins stuff is fine, but Rollins saying my world championship match is the least of my concerns kind of defeats the purpose of the freaking second belt for no reason. No reason to have a second belt.
You gotta love the visionary, Jimmy. He's making a visionary
doing
and a
very
revolutionary
well.
choice
Love
to piss
him.
all over the belt on his way out. That's what he's doing. He's making the revolutionary choice to piss all over the belt on the way
I
out.
guess so, because I don't understand at all why they said that. It just didn't make sense to me, but that's okay. We got a couple more
Wait
things.
a minute. We got to go to the Drew McIntyreologist on this. What's your thoughts there, Chris? Your guy about to get the belt. Is it sullied?
So I'm torn right now, and the reason I'm torn is because I'm developing a pretty hot take that may happen in WrestleMania. I think I'm going to save this little thing for our pre-WrestleMania show.
Look out.
It's a pretty sneaky take, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Not just a hot take, but a sneaky take. And you know who else loved that you're holding it? Jimmy, because he wants to rap.
And with that, you've been listening to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the More You Know's podcast network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Rod, and Chris.
Yeah, that's right. WrestleMania is just around the corner, but you don't have just WrestleMania to look forward to. Now you have this sneaky hot take coming from the old man. Look out.
Goodbye, net. Yeah. Hello, Internet. The Morgan You Know podcast network presents Balls and Brew.
Hello, and welcome to the flagship sports podcast here on the Morgan You Know Podcasting Network. I am Rod Morgan. I will serve as your host. Joining me is the executive producer of this, the host of the previous podcast. And hello to those of you still continuing to join us here on all of our social media platforms. We appreciate it. We're switching gears here from sports entertainment to sports, but it's seamless because of one man and one man only, and that's Jimmy Jamriska. Jimmy, hello.
It's as seamless as it can be, just like the Bears and Colts NFL free agency. Seamless, everything to the book. We're good to go.
Absolutely. We will get to a couple of free agent takes before we run the fast break, but joining us as well, back home here in the Hoosier State, formerly of North Carolina, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Czechoslovakia, and even Papua New Guinea, it's our guy, Chris King. Chris, hello.
You forgot Germany in that there list. That was a pretty important spot in my life.
That's true. I was trying to leave a few places out, Chris, but you're right. Well, we should have thrown Germany in there because nobody has ever hammered that many pretzels before.
And nobody ever will.
If you are listening, watching, whatevering on YouTube, X, or Facebook, throw a comment in the chat. We're talking NFL free agency. We're talking NBA here in a little while. Any questions you have, any comments you have, throw them in there and we'll talk about it.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tell your friends, make sure you follow along, subscribe, like, whatever way you're checking out the show here. It helps us out. We do appreciate it. I want to talk about how NFL free agency is a lot of flash, bang, But then when you look behind the curtain, it's just an old guy who got stuck in a hot air balloon one time and turned himself into the Wizard of Oz, right? So you hear all these things. Oh my goodness, Baker Mayfield got 3 years, $115 million. And then you look and you're like, no, it's not actually close to that at all.
1 year,
It's more
27.
yeah, more like 2 years, 50, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, you look at his deal. Running backs, right? Running backs are flying off the board at the beginning of free agency. And you're like, oh, look, hey, everybody's puffing their chests out. People need running backs. But then you look at how much money the running backs are being paid. And all 9 running backs that signed in the first day of free agency equaled what Kirk Cousins got in one contract from the Falcons. So we still have a big problem with the running backs. But that being said, I will lead with what I thought was the most important signing, and that was Derrick Henry to the Baltimore Ravens. It's absolutely perfect. It's a great meeting of a free agent and a team, and it's a team that's not looking for Derrick Henry to overhaul their entire running game and take them to the promised land. They're just looking for Derrick Henry to add to what they already do. Chris, I mean, come on, as an AFC guy, you got to love that move for the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, you're not looking for Derrick Henry to get you 250 plus carries a year anymore, all right? You're looking to get 180 or so, and a lot of those are going to be in the red zone, Rod, where you want to get that 5 yards, a cloud of dust, move the chains, or get in the end zone, and that's exactly what he's going to do.
Well, how about we're on to you here, Chris. Who do you think was the biggest signing that you thought was really moving the needle?
I mean, I am still a little bit shocked that Minnesota didn't make a move to keep Kirk Cousins. So I think Atlanta getting Kirk Cousins really opens that door. If they start actually using the weapons they have, now they have a competent quarterback who's experienced and is a veteran to really open up that offense.
Jimmy Jam, I got a feeling you might lean Homer on us a little bit here, but I'll lean Homer before I throw it back to you because I don't think you're going to pick this because it's not a signing unless you were going to pick this guy, this new team that he signed with. But Gardner leaving the Colts, I shed a tear. I shed a tear for my guy. But I will say this: it was a glorious, glorious year in the sun, and I believe it was the great Dr. Seuss who said, "Don't cry because it's over, or don't be sad because it's over. Be happy because it happened." I screwed that quote up, but the great Dr. Seuss said it. And you know why he's the great Dr. Seuss? Because he wrote it better than I just said it there. All right. But Gardner, you'll be missed. Hope you have fun out there in Vegas, and your $15 million is probably a very, very good thing. So good for you. Jimmy Jam.
I want to talk about Russell Wilson and the Steelers. I really want to talk about this one. I know
Let's
it's a
get into
Tomlin
it.
rah-rah spot. They got him for nothing, which is fine. But where, and this has been said a lot, but the Russell Wilson makeup and the city of Pittsburgh makeup are completely different. Are we going to get the Russell Wilson that was told he was too short coming out of college? He was a 5th round draft pick. No one believed him. Are we going to get that Russell Wilson, or are we going to get the Russell Wilson that's driving in on a huge like monster truck to Denver? I'm intrigued by what's going to happen in Pittsburgh, especially since they just traded one of their receivers too.
Jimmy, do you believe that Russell Wilson now is closer to the guy that we have had to ask the questions about the last 4 or 5 years, or the guy that he was just coming out of college? Which one do you think Russell Wilson's closer to now at this point?
He's the same person he's been for the past 4 or 5 years. I think he really is. And I'm baffled by why you do. I mean, I know why you do it because it's free. It's $1 million or whatever it was. But that's really, that quarterback room is odd now, isn't it? You've got Pickett who, hey, I'm still here. Haven't really given him
Rudolph. How about Mason Rudolph?
Mason Rudolph has been there for. Yeah, it's such a weird dynamic in that quarterback room now. But I mean, they have 3 starting quarterbacks on their roster, and a lot of people don't have one right now.
Goodbye to the biscuit, though, right? Goodbye to the biscuit because of this move. So
back in Buffalo, where he belongs, backing up Josh Allen, so he'll get a lot of reps in as this.
He's a big fan of wings. I'm pretty sure. I think I read that in Mitch Trubisky's bio one time that he really eats buffalo wings at a rapid rate. So that's a good town for him to be in. So
sure.
No, Jimmy, you're right. I mean, I think if Russell Wilson has any semblance of fire left in his belly, right, he will absolutely want to stick it to the Broncos because, believe it or not, as anti-Russell Wilson as most people are, he sort of got public sentiment on his side with the way that the Broncos handled everything. I believe even us on this podcast sort of intimated that the Broncos were kind of doing him dirty at the end of the year last year. So if Russ has any fire left in his belly, he's going to be trying to stick it to the Broncos one last time. So if you're Pittsburgh, like you said, Jimmy, it's just so cheap that, like, if you say to yourself, okay, I only got to pay like veteran minimum and I'm getting this guy who was almost an MVP and won a Super Bowl, and it's not, I got to pay a little extra for Gardner Minshew, or I'm getting who's the Sam Darnold, who else was out there, so I mean, like Marcus Mariota somehow got brought back. I mean, we were scraping, so I get it, but you're right. I think he's probably going to fail spectacularly because Russ does everything spectacularly. But I'm interested to hear what a man who resided in Pittsburgh for a while thinks.
So here's what I'm going to say. All right. If you're a Russell Wilson fan, the only place where he could go to get back that edge like he had coming out of college is a place like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a culture. You know how I am, Rod. All right. There is a real culture in Pittsburgh that has been there since the 60s. Okay. And it is still prevalent today. And everybody on that roster and in that organization knows that from the top down. They turned a schlub, and I'm calling him a schlub, Ben Roethlisberger, into a Hall of Famer. All right. If an organization can do something like that, they can get the best they can out of Russ. And this makes me nervous. All right. I like the Ravens and I like the Bengals out of that division. Those are teams that I'm fans of. And now I have the Steelers again to deal with. All right. They had a winning record these last few years when they shouldn't have, but they still won. And now they get a better quarterback when that's been their weakest spot.
I'm in.
Worried.
Listen, Chris, I don't often say that you sway me with arguments, but I'm in, man. Like, I think that Russ was still able to get it done to a point in Seattle because he had an awful lot of respect for Pete Carroll, right? Pete Carroll had a resume. Pete Carroll had a rap sheet, right? When Russ arrived in Denver, he had Nat Hackett, who got fired right before the end of his first year. And then he had an interim coach. And then Sean Payton basically came in already deciding that Russ was against him, right? So Russ had no chance with Sean Payton. So he's going to come in and probably listen to him. So listen, I'm in. Let's go. Tomlin rah-rah spot. Come on, baby. Steelers are going to go 11 and 7, 16, 6, 11 and 6. See, math again, not my strong point. 11 and 6. They're in the playoffs, losing in the first round like they always do in Pittsburgh. Let's go.
So I want to talk here about our hometown teams here. I want to talk about Colts. I want to talk about Bears.
Let's do it.
Bears signed a couple Eagles players, and they had the Eagles, CHGO had the Eagles beat writer on there, and he said, okay, Kevin Byard kind of stinks. Thank you for that. And DeAndre Swift, I think he had his best year last year that he's going to have. I think Swift signing is fine. They did need another running back. They did re-sign a couple people, and they've signed a few others as well. But they really haven't made the move yet that the Bears fans really wanted to see. I think most Bears fans want to see them trade the number one pick. But you are seeing right now what the league thinks of Justin Fields. And unfortunately, it's not what we thought of him. So I'm going to throw this out to you, Rod. You ready?
Yes.
The Colts need a backup quarterback.
Bring it.
Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson are basically the same player.
Yes.
Bring in Justin Fields to be the backup. Anthony Richardson didn't get it through 4 games last year. If the Colts want to go anywhere, I think bringing in Justin Fields for a 5th or a 6th round draft pick at this point would be a fantastic move for the Colts.
I think if you're the Bears, you're going to fight hard for a 5th because you got to say to yourselves, listen, Justin Fields is better than Mac Jones. And Mac Jones just went for a 6th to Jacksonville, so you're going to fight hard for a 5th. But listen, Jimmy, I'm all in, and I'll tell you why. A football guy that I've grown to respect recently because he's a young football writer, but he's come to the ringer. His name's Ben Solak, right?
Yeah.
And he talks about where Justin Fields is at right now. He cannot go to a bad team with a murky quarterback situation and try to win because it's not going to be good for his career. What he needs to do is what Trubisky did. Now, hold with me for a second. It didn't work out for Trubisky in the end, but he went to Buffalo, right? Everybody in Buffalo was like, oh, you guys wouldn't believe what we're seeing out of Mitch in practice. He's learning stuff from Josh Allen, and Pittsburgh bought it, right? Hook, line, and sinker. Gave Mitch decent starter type money, brought him over, and it didn't work out, right? You need to go to a place where a guy's good with the quarterback. And guess who that is? Shane Steichen. So, Jimmy, I love your thought here. Let's go. We've said things that they've listened to in Indianapolis before. I'm on board with you now. Chris just swayed my argument for let's go Russ in Pittsburgh. And you just swayed my argument for we are now the official podcast of Justin Fields to Indianapolis. Let's go.
Chris, as a Colts fan, I brought that. Now, Chris isn't as backed up because I floated this in the pre-pod conversation with him. But the Colts have re-signed or extended basically everyone on their roster right now. The only free agent they've signed is Raekwon Davis from the depleted Miami Dolphins. What do you think about Justin Fields to the Colts, and are you okay with what they've done so far?
I'm going to start with what they've done so far.
He hates the Justin Fields to the Colts. Go ahead.
I don't. I think what they've done so far is perfectly adequate. I like the tag on Pittman. I'm not a fan of the franchise tag.
No, they signed him. They signed him.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
3 at 70, which is probably like 3 at 11.
Okay, so good. I know we have some stuff that we still have addressed. So I know they're not going to address it in this non-tampering window that we're still technically in, I guess. So I know more's to come, and we can shore up some spots on defense that we were lacking. I don't think I need somebody else's failed experiment as my backup. I would rather see us either go get a veteran who has been a backup.
No, hold on, wait, stop. You can't say that. Clearly, they don't want that. They had that in their building and they let him walk, Chris. They had that in their building and they let him walk.
Yeah, because he was going to get more money than they were willing to pay him.
So
Justin Fields costs $2.3 million next year.
Exactly. Who are you going to get that's just as good as Gardner Minshew but doesn't cost as much money? Who are you talking about? See, it's great to talk about an abstract, but I want facts. I want real. There's already
here we go, Chris.
Second. Okay. The first fact I'll bring up then is what I really want them to do, because I'm a fan of this person. I want them to use their first pick to get Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback out of Washington.
Why? What are you talking about? We just got a quarterback last year. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
And he only played 4 games.
Oh my goodness gracious. So you don't want a
guy. He went to IU.
You don't want a guy who bailed on IU, by the way. Bailed on IU, and that doesn't seem to bother you.
The quarterback is the most important position on the football. Everybody agrees that. We know that. The chances of hitting on a first round pick are minuscule. Most teams don't do it. So the more times you take a quarterback in the first round, the more chances you have of hitting that.
Fine. The only time this worked was Kirk Cousins and RG3. And how did it work out for both of them? So at this point, you're dooming one of them to be RG3.
Chances are one of them was going to be RG3 anyway.
Well, chances are throw in the chat.
Just a dark cloud. A minute ago, you're all like, we're going to shore up some things, and that's okay in the non-tampering window, and now you're just dark cloud that one of these guys is going to blow their knee out. Good Lord.
I still think, and I still have a lot of confidence that Anthony Richardson is going to be our guy.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah, no question. But if you
got to hedge your bets.
But if you draft a quarterback in the first round, that person has to play within the next couple of years. That's why Anthony Richardson is that player. If they were to draft Penix in the first round, Colts fans would go nuts. These are the other free agents, Chris, that the Colts could pick up right now. Ryan Tannehill, Tyler Huntley, which actually might not be a bad fit there. Josh Dobbs.
Oh, the Dobbstronaut.
And then Mason Rudolph is also a free agent. We neglected to mention that earlier.
I thought he was from Pittsburgh.
I'd be happy with Dobbs in a Colts uniform.
All right. You know what, though? No, listen, we're not talking about this anymore. You've made me mad. I cannot believe you literally just want the Colts to draft another quarterback after the comet that we saw Anthony Richardson was in the games that he played. The absolute comic, the electricity dripping off that man's body. And you, the old man, want to rain on his parade. You'll be lucky if I even let you run the fast break with Jimmy and I after this.
Here's the fast break music playing. It's live. Yep. It's live.
That's my bad. Jimmy didn't know I was doing it there, but I also didn't know that Chris was going to say the Colts should draft Michael Penix Jr.
How about we do this? NBA. I'm Jimmy, Rod, and Chris are here. This is our Trifecta Tuesday. I just coined a phrase. Look at that. It's NBA Fast Break. Let's talk about our Wins League. Let's not talk about our Wins League. It makes me feel so good when I put my wins from last week up against this week's wins, and I'm still beating Well, I'm actually tied with one, and I was losing to the other one. But Rod, 299 wins. You're knocking on 300 there. How's it feel to be almost at 300 wins, bud?
Well, I'm a huge fan of the 300 movie. Love Gerard Butler. Love Painted on Abs. So it's been a goal of mine all year long to break the 300 plateau. So let's go.
I think the most interesting aspect of this is Rod is in third place, but he does have the number one team in the league with the Boston Celtics having 50 wins there. Chris, 311 wins. Who has? Oh, actually, no, I did beat you last week. Never mind. I had 315 last week. Chris with 311 wins there. Hey, your Washington Wizards are up to 11 wins. What killed you is that Grizzlies with the fourth pick. I mean, who could have thought? Ja Morant missing 21 games and then playing 3 and then missing the rest. That really killed you there, unfortunately. And yes, I'm being cocky. Go ahead.
I know, but it was looking good for those 3 games.
Hey, you know what? Your Mavericks, Pacers, and Bulls, 37, 36, 31. 3 of your last 4 picks. You can't get any better than that except for Rod's Minnesota Timberwolves in round 7 with 44 wins. I have 357 wins on the season. Denver, Cleveland, Golden State, Oklahoma City, the Clippers, my Pelicans. Let's talk about some Pelicans heat here. I'm very excited about my Pelicans. Zion Williamson is still not playing as good as he could be, but the Pelicans are hot. Are they hot as Rod, though? That's the question.
There's zero chance. There's zero chance the Pelicans are as hot as me. Zero chance. All right. And I want to light up one Kevin O'Connor. I want to light up one Ryan Russillo. I even want to light up one Bill Simmons. All right. I am just as mad as any other Celtics fan out there that they did not beat the Denver Nuggets last Thursday. Okay. But saying the gap between these two teams is insurmountable, putting the NBA championship in the Denver Nuggets' hands right now and saying the Celtics would be lucky to have it go 5 games is ridiculous. We are talking about a team that has been in the Eastern Conference Finals 5 straight years, okay? They lost in the NBA Finals a couple years ago, just about made it back last year, improved their team, and they have fought tooth and nail with this Denver team twice, okay? I refuse to believe that the Celtics have zero chance of beating the Nuggets, that we should just cash it in. The playoffs are over. Anoint the Denver Nuggets as back-to-back champions. I refuse to believe that. Now, am I smart enough to see that Jokic is an absolute killer in crunch time and that the Celtics are not great there? Yes, I am. But am I open to the possibility that the Celtics can bury 27 threes and have the Nuggets by 15 with 3.5 minutes once or twice in that series and make a game of it? And maybe even possibly come out on top by the luck of God at the end of a game? Yes, I do. So anybody that says the Celtics are dead and buried, you're part of Rod Dem Nation this week. Let's go green.
Chris is part of Rod Dem Nation this week and would like to retort.
It's not really a retort, but I do have to remind Rod about something that he specifically asked me last week when Boston kind of crapped down their leg and lost in the fourth quarter. You remember that, Rod?
Yes, Chris, I painstakingly remember every time the Celtics crap down their leg in the fourth quarter. Thank you for bringing up that trauma again here on the podcast.
You asked me if you were overreacting because of one little loss, and I kind of told you, yes, you need to relax, look at the season as a whole. We are not in the playoffs yet. Yes, you would like to have beaten Boston, but you are correct. These guys need to tone it down a peg, all right, and not overreact about one loss to the reigning NBA champions, all right? You can't win every single game of the season, so you're not wrong, but I did have to talk you off the ledge last week for almost the same thing.
I think I was just mad that the Celtics lost the streak. I think that was more that I've just, the streak, and they blew it against Dean Wade, my guy, who probably is cracking the top 25 list of the best white Americans, but that's for another episode.
Chris King, the NBA has seen a shift back to your old school days here. We've had more sub 90 point, both teams having that games this past week than we've had in the past couple of years. Do you like the new direction that the officiating?
I gotta say, I'm becoming a fan of a few of these teams that I wasn't a fan of before because of the defense that they are playing. I'm really looking at Minnesota Timberwolves for one. Like, I've become a believer in that team. Rod's been on their bandwagon for a few years now, and I have finally come around. And that's what I have enjoyed, Jimmy, is the defense. If only we could get a little bit of that defense played by the Indiana Pacers, I'd be really happy. But when you're seeing guys making MVP style plays to block a shot at the end of a game to win it, like Edwards did, that's what I like. Like, give me more defense like that all year
That's
round.
highlight of the year. That was a defensive play, but that's highlight of the year.
Right? Phenomenal. Give me more of that.
Now, speaking of Anthony Edwards, did you happen to say MVP type play? It looks like we have to bring out the MVP table.
Devon, get the table.
All right. The MVP. Huge award. Rod was adamant that Jokic could not win it last year. Adamant. You're not going to give him 3 in a row. Who, Rod, is someone that you're inviting to our table to this year?
Well, you know what? I think the way that you led me in there, I got to just say that I can't fight against the youth, to quote a great Sublime song here. And the youth would be Nikola Jokic, I guess, in this scenario, because he's definitely at the MVP table, probably going to win it. The Nuggets seem primed to be the number 1 seed in the West. He's putting up ridiculous nerd season numbers once again. I'm not entirely sure that I understand what all of those are, but when you watch a game like that Celtics game, where it's high level defense, high level offense, and Jokic is making the right play every time, and you just realize that you got no chance. You try to put somebody like Drew Holiday, who's stout and 6'5" and one of the best defenders the NBA has, and Jokic is just going to back him down, old man YMCA style. You try to run a double at him, Jokic is going to hit the guy who you doubled off of, and oh, by the way, that's Aaron Gordon, rolling to the rim for a dunk. Or Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. spotted up for a 3-pointer, or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, guys who can all shoot. So I get it. And Jokic is the trigger man for all of it. So he's got to be at the table. I'd be disingenuous, Jimmy, if I didn't put him there.
I appreciate that, Rod. And I think Jokic is proving every year that he might actually belong in that upper echelon of players over the past century of NBA. Chris King, we have Jokic at the head of the table so far. Probably. Who's somebody else you want to bring in?
Yeah, Jokic deserves to be there because we all know he's the future Robbie Avila. All right. So the other, if you guys don't know, that's Robbie Avila. You know, the future of basketball.
Jabbar, our guy, the Sycamore.
Right? I thought you were a basketball fan, Jimmy.
I'm not. I don't care.
We can't have an MVP table without Luka, right? All right. How many more 70-point games do we need to see from this man? How many more triple doubles do we need to see from him? He deserves a seat at this table.
How big's the table? Jimmy, can I ask clarifying questions here? Is that allowed?
I think we probably need to have 4 people at the table.
That would be my thought too. We're going to have a small table. Chris, I'm not so sure. As much as I love Luka and he carries my fantasy team and you cannot deny his individual brilliance, I just don't know if I'm ready to put him at the small table because of the Dallas Mavericks team's overall malaise and his overall malaise at the defensive end. Give me your vote for Luka here.
I mean, right now he's third in the odds for winning the MVP. So I think we need to keep him on there. He's having another amazing season. It's not really his fault. The Mavericks, the trades they made were really weird, and he's doing everything he can. So I think he needs to be brought up to the table. Listen, after we get 4, if you
good,
really
I'm voted down. I'm voted down. 2-1. I'm voted down. That's all right. We believe in democracy here on the Balls and Brew podcast, the Fast Break, the Morgan Podcasting Network, all of the above.
So we are pro-democracy, and we are also pro-Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I think definitely deserves to be at the MVP table. He's kind of an old-school player. You know, he doesn't have to hit threes all day long. He's getting 30 a game, and it's like nothing. It really is he's done such a great job this year. and they're translating into wins finally. So I think the Thunder have done everything correctly. I think Shea is definitely at the table.
Yep. And can I introduce you guys to a former two-time MVP as well, who is actually putting up better stats this year than a lot of other years in his career? Can I direct you up to Milwaukee, a number 34, one Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, a team who's probably going to be the number 2 seed in the East after we were all a little bit worried about their overall team performance, a team whose defense is shooting up the charts, and Giannis is a big-time performer behind that. I continue to be amazed when I catch Milwaukee basketball because you know that Giannis goes all out, but until you actually watch a game and just see what that entails, Giannis going all out means that guy's got to be at the table for me. That's got to be the 4th seat in my opinion.
Chris, I think we're taking Giannis a little for granted as NBA fans. He's amazing.
Yeah, he is. And it's the same thing that people are doing with Jokic. Yes, like we know he's great. We know blah, blah, blah. But that's why they deserve seats at this table, because they are that great, where they make greatness look ordinary. And so we start to dismiss it, because they do it all the time. I think this is a good 4 people for this table. I think if Embiid did not get hurt, he would probably be at this table instead of Luka. Luka is my 4th guy on this table. I agree with everybody else, especially SGA. All right, because you guys want to talk about a guy that can do and play both ways. It's a guy that gets over 3 stocks a game. You know how I like that. And that's a guy like SGA, who's also probably the most efficient scorer of this group as well. Maybe second most efficient, because Jokic is really, really efficient with the basketball.
Well, and Jokic shoots more 3-pointers basically than Shea and makes more 3-pointers than Shea, which is actually amazing, right?
Really
that's another reason why Shea's percentages are so high, because he's a mid-range assassin. And somebody I think that gets forgot about here, Jimmy, if we're talking about the kids table a little bit, right? Obviously, Jason Tatum deserves a few votes because Boston's really, really good, and he's the trigger man for that team in a lot of ways. But another mid-range assassin who is a guy we used to give some guff for not playing, and he's basically played this whole entire year and been pretty darn good, and that's Kawhi Leonard, right? Yeah. Certainly he's not going to be a guy sitting in the top 4, but he's a guy that needs to be thought of because he's put together a solid year for the Clippers, and all we've wanted Kawhi Leonard to do is play basketball. So another guy in Brooklyn is taking over the mantle of getting paid NBA salary to not actually play, but we're not going to talk about him right now because we're talking about
MVPs. Terrific. And I think finally for the table, before we go on to the next segment, someone just, he's sitting in the back there just waiting. Anthony Edwards over the next couple of months. Now that Towns is out, let's see what happens. I don't think this year, he may not even get to the table this year, but there's going to be a seat for him.
We don't need listen, we all love you and you're going to have more opportunities, but 35 shots, my guy, is probably a few shots too many. Now, I know that was versus the Pacers, but still, I don't know that you need to be jacking up 35 in a game, Ant. You got a few teammates still, bud.
Yeah, but keep making plays like he did against Indiana, and more people will be talking about him for the MVP.
Sorry.
Whoa! I thought we were going to double play. Double play, baby. Let's go.
Sorry, Chris, you interjected when I didn't think you were interject. I had timing down right. That's okay. The Kings, hardwood, hierarchy. Go ahead.
Well, okay, the Kings, Boston, right? Yeah, I know they lost to Denver, but you don't keep. I mean, you're still
not what you did lately with the Kings hardwood hierarchy.
Listen, they've won 2 games since they lost to Denver. All right, they're still 8-2 over their last 10.
Phoenix Suns, who everybody wants to ride all over recently.
Yeah, and so you're still the Kings. All right, until somebody goes on some weird win streak or you go on a losing streak, because we know that can happen. They're the Kings. All right. Then we get to the Queen and Prince. I'm going to tell you, these 2 are even in my book right now, and that is the Thunder and the Nuggets. The Nuggets are really hot. They've won 9 out of their last 10, but the Thunder are staying just ahead of them. They've won 8 out of their last 10. I think Denver has probably had a rougher schedule more recently than what Oklahoma City has, but they're neck and neck. So I can't differentiate between Queen and Prince this week. It's OKC and Denver.
Okay, but here's the thing, right? If we talk about how the Celtics got bodied by Jokic, what in the world do we think Chet Holmgren is doing with Jokic? So you can talk about how they're even right now, but I don't think any of us thinks Oklahoma City
that'll
has a
be
chance of
interesting.
beating
Listen,
Denver.
here's one thing that I'm worried about. Denver's about ready to go on a road trip. They're not that great on the road. Let's see what they do on this road trip. All right. So yes, you beat Boston at home, but like let's see how you keep doing on the road. Let's get some more road games and let me see you win more road games. Like you're barely up over 500. Most of your losses are on the road.
Who's the jester? Who's the jester? I'm invested in who the jester is because I got a couple of votes.
Okay, so I'm going to give you two jesters, one from each division, all right? Because both these teams deserve it because they have fell, all right? We're going to start in the East, and that's with Miami, all right? Because you were in the
Yeah.
top 6, and all of a sudden now you're in the play-in game behind Indiana. So you put yourself into a rough spot. Like Miami is a good team, I know, but you can't be losing this time of year like that.
Mr. Culture just put heat culture in the jester spot, Jimmy. Mark this down. This is a day in podcast infamy right here. Heat culture as a jester, Chris, how dare you?
They lost 3 in a row. They're in a slump. They got to turn it around. All right.
So
I
what?
told
There's
you
so
last
many
week.
terrible
lately.
teams that
It's
exist.
what you've done lately.
And I told you last week, Rod, that this is going to reflect teams that are slipping in the playoff race.
But
All right.
somebody lost to the Lizards and made them the Wizards again and broke their 16-game streak. Somebody did that, and somehow they didn't make Jester.
Nope.
Okay.
The other team that I am going to give the jester to is another team that has been dreadful as of late. They were in the playoff picture out west. Now they are out of it. That's the Utah Jazz. They've gone 2-8 over the last 10. They have just been playing horrible, but they are now out of the playoff race. So,
well, yeah, I mean the Jazz.
Wait a
want to.
minute.
They have a top
If the
10
Utah Jazz loses a game in the forest as no one is around, does anyone even hear it? What are you talking about the Utah Jazz? I forgot they were even playing. The Utah Jazz are the jesters. No one cares. You can't be the jester if no one cares about you. The worst jester in the world, Chris, is the jester who is summoned by the king to come into the court and entertain everyone so that they laugh and are taken away from the plague and all the troubles of the people living out near the moats, right? If you come in as a jester and you got nothing for the king to laugh at, it's off with your head. The Utah Jazz are going to come in as the jester, and the King's going to say, who are these guys? Laurie Marketing? Please. John Collins, get out of here.
listen, I told you last week you were all for it. This is about teams losing their spots in the playoff race, and that's what happened. The teams that dropped the most, Miami dropped out into the play-in
Raptors
game.
stink, and they lost to the Wizards. That's your answer.
The Raptors are pretty bad.
Yeah, they're not even in a playoff race, Rod. I don't care about the Raptors.
No one cares about the Jazz, and you just made them the jester.
They were in the playoff race until last
But
week.
they don't. But see, the Jazz don't want it because they have a top 10 protected pick that they need to give out if they're not in there. So they want to be top 10. They want to do what Dallas did last year. So they're trying to lose. They also traded
Ainge
people.
doesn't even watch Jazz games. Danny Ainge doesn't even watch Jazz games right now, Chris. Call him up. I've got his number. Call him up.
God forbid, why do I have a segment if you're going to just tell me whatever I say is wrong?
I didn't tell you the whole segment was fraudulent. I just said the Jazz were a fraudulent pick. Slow down over there, Mr. Overreaction.
You literally said the Raptors are the jester, and that's the answer.
The man just wants one segment to himself, Rod.
They're my jesters, Rod, not yours. I'm
right,
laughing
you're right.
at them.
You're right. My bad.
You have been listening to the Fast Break, Balls and Brew, and the Yeah We Know podcast on our Tuesday trifecta on the Morgan You Know Podcasting Network.
Yes, thank you so much for hanging with us. Join us here every Tuesday for a little while until we get back into the height of the NFL season. We're going to have lots of fun planned for you. And check out an episode exists right before this one, our fun game show. And you guys are lucky that I'm just now bringing it up when we're wrapping it up and I can't spend 15 minutes bemoaning how it's an absolute travesty that I lost the takeoff.
Goodbye, Internet.